Hello, everyone. Welcome to our distance learning webinar series. My name is Charmaine Carter. I am the Director of Parent Relations here at Friendship Public Charter School, and we are happy to introduce our webinar for this evening, which is Remote Learning Made Easy. We're talking about the secrets and the fears and the tips for distance learning during this epidemic. Our mission is to provide a world-class education for our scholars, and this epidemic won't stop us. So we understand that there's been a shift, and Friendship is here to support you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our facilitator for the hour, Professor Zacchaeus.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Thank you for joining us today. My name is Professor Shala Zacchaeus, and I'm here with you today to kind of discuss some of the secrets, fears, and tips to distance learning. So a little bit about me. I started off working in the charter schools myself. I was a preschool teacher. I've taught self-contained. I've taught inclusion. I've taught pre-K 3, pre-K 4 mix. After working in the school setting, I left the school setting to go into the college setting. So that's where I started adjuncting and teaching early childhood courses at the University of the District of Columbia. While doing that, I started consulting for a company called Hurley & Associates, which works with OSSI to go into child development centers and kind of do quality assurance and ensure that directors and teachers are getting the supports that they need. So I've done some workshops for Friendship as well in regards to parenting and things of that nature, and I've come to talk and speak to students and parents. So today I'm hoping that during this webinar, during this training, that I can help quell some of your fears and answer some of your questions in regards to distance learning. This is a really interesting time for us due to this pandemic, and we're all learning how to be flexible during this time. So we're just here to kind of, I'm here today to help you out and provide you with some tips and strategies. So first things first, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a chat box window. So if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box and I'll be able to answer them. And if you have anything that you might need to say that's urgent, you can unmute yourself and you can do that too. So I wanted to kind of start today off by just figuring out who's all here with us. So if you can use the chat box or unmute yourself to answer the first question How many of you are working from home as well as working with your children in regards to distance learning? Okay, so I see one person has said me. If anybody else is working while they are working with their children distance learning, can you put that in the chat box? And it's the little window at the bottom of your screen that has like a little chat bubble. You click that and then you can type your answers in there. My next question would be, how many of you have more than 2 children that are of school age? So if you have more than 2 children that are of school age, you can just type the number 2 in the chat box. I see one person has typed the number 2. So I'm assuming everybody else only has 1 child that you're working with, 1 and a toddler, okay? 2, okay. Well, so we're gonna get into the meat of the training today, and hopefully I could provide some supports for you all and kind of make this new shift that you all have a little bit easier for you. So I'm going, I have control. All right, so what is distance learning? Do any of you have an idea? You've just been kind of thrown into this all of a sudden. What is distance learning? You can use the chat box or you can unmute your mic to answer. But give me an idea of what you think distance learning is. I lost my chat. Simona Charmaine, I can no longer see the chat box. Okay, found it, found it. Okay, schooling while at home. Okay, so that's probably what most of you are feeling as though distance learning is. Schooling while at home. Someone on Facebook said homeschooling, and that's very interesting. I was kind of waiting for somebody to mention homeschooling because we're gonna kind of touch on that today as well. So, get back to my slide. Distance learning is also known as distance education, e-learning, and online learning. There is physical separation between the teachers and the students, okay? During instruction with the use of various technologies to facilitate student-teacher interactions. So I know a lot of you all might be used to Zoom or might be used to Google Hangouts right now because that's what a lot of teachers are using. So distance learning is literally when the teacher and the child are separated and technology is then being used to link them together to facilitate those interactions and teachable moments, okay? Another panelist said homeschooling with teachers, okay. So what is homeschooling? Homeschooling is more flexible in the content that you decide to teach. The responsibility falls solely on the parent to prepare the lesson plans and to satisfy curriculum mandates based on the state that you're in. So the parents choose the curriculum, the parents do the lesson planning, the parents have the ability to decide scheduling and how the day is gonna look for their child. And they have to still follow and abide by the state mandates based on whichever state that the homeschooling is happening in. So what's the difference? What's the difference between homeschooling and distance learning? So in homeschooling, parents purchase or they build a curriculum and they serve as the teachers. Right now, distance learning, what you all are doing is using a curriculum that's established by the school and or supporting homework that's and assignments that is delivered by teachers in the school, and you're serving as coaches alongside your baby's teachers, okay? In homeschooling, you're also able to incorporate faith-based learning because it's happening at home. In public schools and online distance learning, religion is not allowed to drive curriculum, so that's another difference. And for homeschooling, the socialization opportunities must be organized by the parent. In a school setting, I'm sorry, I'm reading a comment. Hello, I'm the parent liaison from online campus. Hello, Miss Cheryl, welcome. Hello, Miss Catherine, welcome.
Wow.
So the socialization piece in schools almost happen automatically, because the children are around other kids and other students their age, above and lower. There are opportunities such as clubs and sports and other interactions that happen that the school may create or that teachers individually within their classrooms create. However, with homeschooling, because they're happening at home, yeah, there might be other children, other siblings in the house, maybe even other family members if that parent is homeschooling a community. However, the socialization piece of engaging, playing, communicating with other children, the parents have to make that decision to plan that on their own through homeschooling. Some more differences are that with homeschooling, some states require assessment for your homeschool students and other states don't. So it's not mandated everywhere. Also with homeschooling, the parent serves as the full-time teacher. So you might all be familiar with the park because you're used to your children having to get ready for the park each year. That's the standardized testing that's used within the DC area. So if DC mandated for homeschooling children to be assessed, they would have to either use the park or something similar to that to show that their child is on or meeting grade level, okay? On the distance learning side, public schools will administer those state tests as mentioned. Students are still learning at home, but they're able to benefit, as well as you parents, you're able to benefit from the support of their school and teachers. So that's the difference. Homeschooling children and parents, they don't have access to teachers and leadership and administration the same way you all do working with leadership and teachers at Friendship. So at this point, I wanted just to stop to see if there were any questions before I kept going. I'll wait a couple seconds to see if anything is coming through Facebook and if anybody wants to type anything in the message box if you have any questions. I see, Miss Catherine, you took your microphone off. Did you want to ask a question?
Is it off?
No, yeah, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh. No, I was just thinking because I like the homeschooling because there's more interaction for my son. I think he feels more involved because he can see the teacher and he can even see his classmates. And that helps with the isolation part of
Yeah,
him being home.
that's great. That's great. I'm glad that he has that option because I know a lot of the children are, you know, they might fuss about school here and there, but they do like to be around their friends, and human interaction is just a necessary desire and need. So I'm glad that they have that option to be able to interact with their classmates and teachers still.
Yeah.
Did anybody else want to chime in and mention anything? Don't be shy. We're all friends here. Okay. So in light, and I wanted to just hone in on something that Charmaine just pointed out, which some of you may already know, due to the pandemic and the shift and change in distance learning, the park assessment as well as other state mandated assessments throughout the nation have been waived for this year for students. So that's one thing that they don't have to worry about, and you all don't have to worry about, and teachers don't have to worry about this year on top of everything else. So I'm going to continue on and move on to the next slide. So I have a little icebreaker for us because I know this shift has caused a lot of fears for our parents. So I wanted to know, what are some of your fears that you have with participating in distance learning with your children. What are you afraid of? You can unmute yourself and share over the mic, or you can use the message box to share what some of your fears are. And you can list them all. I'm here to listen. I see J.J. Johnson, you turned your mic off. Did you want to speak?
Tanya raised her hand.
Brown.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. Hi, Tanya. How are you?
I am well, thank you, and I pray that you are also.
Thank you.
I have concerns in relation to my grandson who has some special needs.
Okay.
My children, I have other children in the household who have been homeschooling for a while now, so my concern is not with them so much, but my grandson, because he is kind of, he already has challenges, how it's going to play into this distance learning, because I've been giving him lessons. It's a little challenging because of his situation, and he gets frustrated easily.
Okay.
How is this going to play out for those students?
Okay. So you're worried about your grandson who has special needs and how it's going to play out for them. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do have extensive background in special education. And one of my first things I remember saying to my husband is that, what's going to happen to all my babies that have IEPs? What's going to happen with their services? It's going to be difficult to provide them with the same services that they were getting in school versus what they're going to get now. So when we get later on in the presentation, I actually have some resources specifically for children that may have certain special needs. So I hope that I'll be able to kind of help you out and provide you with some supports to better support your grandson.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. In the chat box, Miss Catherine said that she's afraid that her child will be left behind. Miss Charmaine said that I'm so far removed from school, I'm afraid my child will fail. Anybody else want to share? Okay, so not surprisingly, a lot of the things that you said were a lot of the same things that I've been hearing from friends of mine and other parents that I know. So, I did a little informal research via Facebook, asking a couple questions to the Facebook family in concerns to what are some of their fears in regards to distance learning. And many of folks on my friends list mentioned some of the things that we just mentioned about the child falling behind, feeling removed from the school, what's going to happen to my baby with special needs. So here were some of the other things that were mentioned as well, along with, will my child fall behind? Will they have to repeat a grade? My child has an IEP. I'm in fear of lapse of services. Am I doing this right? Do I even know what I'm doing? Am I doing this right? Some folks complained about not having the appropriate technology for what they need to do based on the school's requirement, whether it's Wi-Fi or a tablet or a computer or a laptop. Another thing that was intensely expressed was that they have to work from home too. So now, made me a teacher, and I have to work and answer my boss, and there's 2 kids behind me asking me for snacks. So juggling so many things at one time. Also, I have more than one child of school age to support. So just that, once again, juggling, having to support maybe your baby that's in 7th grade versus your baby that's in 1st grade, and or there might be a 3rd and 4th child in the house that you might need support. So balancing that out. Folks saying that they're not a teacher. I'm not a teacher. I don't have the patience. I want him to sit down. I want him to understand it. I done told him a bunch of times. Why doesn't he understand? And of course, I wrote again, will they fall behind? Because that was just the reoccurring theme of parents' concerns when asking them what their fears were for distance learning. So know that you are not alone. You all are not the only folks feeling this way. But hopefully today we can ease some of that off of you a little bit. So next. Now I'm going to talk to you about some of the secrets of distance learning. That's why I have the shh up there. There are a few things that folks may or may not know that can kind of ease your mind in regards to some of the expectations that you may even have for your child, or that is expected of you as a parent slash coach teacher now. So we're going to get into that right now. Don't think you have to fill your day with academics. So that's secret number one. I have heard so many parents saying that, yeah, I done sat my baby down there. They have to get their work done for the next 5 hours so I can cook, make sure I answer these emails from my boss, and that they leave me alone. I've heard some parents saying, hey, I'm just going with the flow. If they do it, they do it. If they don't, they don't. But a lot of folks are thinking that because they send their babies to school for, an 8-hour day, that the expectation for them is to have that same kind of 8-hour day filled with academics. But a couple things to know is that, right, the children are in school for 8 hours because of classroom size. So if you have 20 children in one classroom, of course, the teacher's going to need more time of the day to be able to address 20 children as opposed to working with one child or 2 children directly. Also, part of the academic day includes recess, includes specials, includes transitions. Some transitions between periods and activities can be about 5 minutes. So if you multiply that, over 7 periods or 8 periods, that's another 35 to 40 minutes that is not lended towards instruction. So you don't have to get it in your head that these babies need to do 8 hours of schoolwork all day. They need to be doing something all day, all day, all day. So you can get that kind of to ease your mind. Although you aren't homeschooling, your children are at home with you getting an education. So there are some things that I will point out in regards to homeschooling that may be kind of helpful. So the homeschool schedule can either run on having your child go to school for 3 days a week for a full year, or they can go to school for 5 days a week, and every 2 months, they get a 1 month break. So even in the homeschool setting, that flexibility of, okay, my child and maybe 2 or 3 other children in the house are learning, it doesn't need to be that intense daily structure if you're doing it for only 3 days. And if you're gonna do the intense daily structure of 5 days a week, they're getting a break every 2 months for a whole entire month. So just remember that you don't have to fill the day with academics. Don't let that overwhelm you. Okay, so this chart here, this list here is to kind of give you an idea in the homeschool world, what kind of hours are allocated to learning per grade or age level. So if you see on top for kindergarten or prep, preschool, all the way up to grade 2, second grade, they're only requiring 1 to 1.5 hours of academics, 3 to 4 days per week. In grades 3 and 4, the expectation is 2 to 3 hours of academic work, 4 days per week. For grades 5 through 6, 3 hours to 4 hours of academics for every 4 days per week. Then you get to grade 7, 8, that's more middle school, so they start beefing it up because they're learning a whole lot more. They're taking a lot more content area classes, and that's where you see the jump to 4 to 6 hours for 5 days a week, and then for 9th to 10th grade, 5 to 6 hours for 5 days a week. So if you have a first grader that you're trying to sit down to get 5 hours of academic work done, you might now realize why they're fussing, you're fussing, they're cranky, they don't want to do it, because we have to be reasonable as to what's developmentally appropriate for children. How long can you get a 5-year-old to sit down and do work? How long can you get an 8 or 9-year-old to sit down and do work? So this is just an idea in regards to homeschooling, how many hours, excuse me, they allocate per grade towards academic learning time. So secret number 2, the first 6 weeks. So the first 6 weeks is maybe a little secret in the teacher world that we have that maybe we don't tell parents because that's when everything's crazy and we don't want you to know. But the first 6 weeks in the school setting is usually used for the teacher to acclimate the children to the classroom, go over classroom rules, develop a classroom culture, have the children understand the classroom culture. In the younger grades, they're also teaching them how to do certain things like just simply walking in a line, so that they can transition into recess, working with them on opening and closing their own lunch boxes and jackets and book bags. So just getting used to being independent, getting used to the school setting. So teachers are using the first 6 weeks to acclimate children, your babies, to the classroom before they even really start intensive instruction. So you all are being thrown into this world of distant learning, and a lot of you are confused, frustrated, stressed out, and you don't know the secret of the first 6 weeks. So what's going to happen as you all are transitioning your babies into this distance learning is that, yeah, the first 6 weeks are going to seem maybe a little bit kind of rough because you're trying to develop a routine. You're trying to figure out how and when you're going to squeeze in your schedule amongst their schedule if you're working. So do not be afraid that maybe right now things feel a little crazy because you're just being thrown into this. And moving forward, this is what, week maybe 3-ish of quarantine, maybe going into week 4. Just remember to use this time to be patient with your babies because this is a new first 6 weeks for them too. Be patient with them, be patient with yourself, develop routines, develop some consistency to make the rest of this time kind of go a little smoother because we do not know how long this distant learning may happen for. Any questions, comments, concerns? Anybody want to share anything?
Yes. I when I first started out with Teddy, I was very confused. This is before they did give us a package, and I sat down and I wrote, like you said, this long drawn out schedule for him because I didn't want him to be just free. And so finally, the school got in touch with me and told me that they were going to be doing it on the computer, which
Okay.
was great. And that took like a great load off of me because I really felt like I was going to have to be the one. And I know I'm not equipped to be a homeschool teacher. It's been years.
Yeah.
It's been years. So it was definitely a relief to know that he was going to do most of his work through the computer with the teachers and he would see his students. But what I have done is I know he usually finished like about 9, say from 9 to 1, 1:30, something like that. And then I'll have him do some of his package, and then I'll also have him read a book for me and just tell me a little bit about the book for each chapter. And I've let up some on thinking that I had to structure like a whole 8 hours of school for him.
Right. And
And
how has it been since you've kind of let up a little bit?
it made about he was looking at me funny at first, and I realized why.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that I was being so strenuous on him. But I
Yeah.
didn't know how to do it. So once it just kicked in as soon as the school took over and I saw the structure that the school had for him. And then I realized that I didn't have to do it all. And I was able to just make sure at the end that I check and make sure I definitely let him get up on his own so that he keeps his independence.
Okay.
And I tell him it's up to him to do his schoolwork, but I do check.
Okay.
And if he can't get homework, then I want him to call the teacher, which he has, and I've spoken to some of the teachers
Excellent.
because that way I'm not just leaving it totally up to him. I don't know if he might want to try to trick me and have a fun day or something. So I do I do check behind him, and
Okay.
if he don't, I tell him like this. I said, if you don't have any work today, I'm going to give you some. So he makes
Okay.
sure that the teacher is there. He makes sure he gets into his classes. So
Excellent. Excellent. And it's just like you know, adults, right? Sometimes we have to remember how we feel and kind of understand that babies can feel that way too, because I have a lot of my personal friends that are saying, I'm doing more work at home, working from home, than I do when I go into work. So it's as if that now that I'm home, that there's this expectation that their day has to be filled with work all day. And as an adult, we can't take it. So imagine, you know, a child trying to sit down all day doing work. So I'm glad that you had the thought process to kind of think like, maybe I do need to kind of, you know, lay back a little bit.
Back off a little.
Yeah, I'm sure he appreciated that.
Yes, he does. He's a happier boy.
Good. See, and you're a happier person too.
Yes, I am.
I have an eighth grader. I've been out of school for 22 years. How can I help my child? She also has an IEP. Okay, so for your child, there are some resources that I may share at the end that could be beneficial. I know there's a math resource that I have towards the end of this presentation. If your child has an IEP, I would hope that you'd be able to reach out to not only the teachers, but the SPED coordinator as well, to be able to get further support and resources. I definitely understand the battle of being out of school and then trying to look at especially all this new math that they have, and I haven't even been out of school for that long, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. So reaching out to the SPED coordinator, reaching out to teachers, and hopefully some of the resources that I share later will support you, Miss Nancy. Miss Charmaine is also noting that you can email wecare@friendshipschools.org or call 202-281-1777 to get supports as well for your child, Miss Nancy. All right. So I'm going to move right along to secret number 3, that it can be fun. It seems stressful right now because everybody's adjusting to the change. We don't know what's going to happen. You have children running all over your house, asking you for snacks all day and eating up all your food, but it can be fun. Think about it. When's the last time that we've been able to spend this much time with our family members? No matter how much they get on our nerves, we never get to have that much time to spend some of this intimate time with them. So it can be fun. Use this time as well to teach them new things that you like to do. What does mommy like to do? I didn't know mommy liked to dance. I didn't know mommy knew how to crochet. There's all kinds of fun online museums and things that you all can explore together. And I'm going to talk more about that later on too. But this doesn't have to be stressful because now there's a little bit of flexibility considering that, you know, everybody is at home. Secret number 4, use this time to teach life skills. So we always tease our friend that might not know how to hem their pants, or they need to go ask their mom or their auntie to sew a button back on for them because they never learned how to sew. When I was in college, I knew people that did not know how to use a washing machine. So this is a time to teach your children some life skills that sometimes just go by the wayside because we're just busy. So instead of teaching them how to use the washing machine, hey, move out the way, I'll do it and get it done myself. But here's a great time. We have plenty of time to kind of teach some of those life skills. And especially in the early years, this can be used also as a teaching tool as well, right? So if you have preschool age children or kindergarten, first grade children, have them help you set up the table and count how many plates you need, how many forks you need. Have them come and help you measure the water into the bowl or the rice into the pot. They're learning fractions, they're learning weight, they're learning science, they're seeing things go from solid to the gas to solid. I'm not a scientist, but you know what I'm saying. Like, this is an opportunity for them through cooking to learn mathematical skills, science skills, some of those life skills that we don't get the opportunity to learn. I wish I knew how to sew. I broke my mom's sewing machine when I was about 13, and she never let me touch it again, and I still don't know how to sew. So as everybody's making themselves quarantine masks, I have to use needle and thread to make mine. So wouldn't it have been great if I had this kind of time to learn that, you know, from my mom back when I was 13? So teaching life skills, secret number 4. Secret number 5, do not wrap yourself up in guilt. These are crazy times for everybody. The teachers are all over the place. The principals are all over the place. So do not feel bad if you feel all over the place. Do not feel bad that you are not a teacher. The expectation is not for you to be a teacher. It's for you to kind of keep doing the same things that you've already been doing, facilitating your child's learning, supporting them, being the extra coach at home to facilitate and support their learning. So don't feel guilty because you don't know how to do the math. We're going to call somebody up and we're going to ask that math teacher to support us over the phone or Zoom or whatever it is. Don't feel guilty because you don't understand the science concept. You know, things have changed, math has changed, the way they're even asking questions on tests have changed. So don't feel guilty. You're a parent first, and holding on to that guilt and feeling guilty. Children want happy mommies and daddies. So don't stress yourself out with feeling like this has to be perfect, that you have to be doing it a certain way. As long as you're trying and you're, you know, reaching out to teachers and the supports at the school, then you are doing your best. Any questions, comments, concerns before I continue on? It's difficult not to feel bad. Anybody else feel that way too, that it's difficult not to feel bad? I feel like I heard somebody's mic go off. Did anybody want to share something? Okay. Well, if not, I'm going to move forward. But as much as you know, there may be some guilt, but just remember that you're the best parent your child has, period. You're the only parent they know, so you're the best parent that your child has. And what you're doing does mean something, and your effort does mean something. So try your best to not feel guilty. Miss Tanya? Miss Tanya, I hear your mic is off. Did you want to share something before I went on?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's been on the whole time.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't do anything different. I was just sitting away from it.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know how to mute it.
You should be able to mute. You should see a little like microphone somewhere on your screen towards the bottom, and you click the microphone. But we don't have too much sound interference. I just thought you wanted to say something.
No, ma'am.
Okay. One more in the chat box. Okay. So now I'm going to give you some tips to support you while you're supporting your babies at home. So a schedule. There is power in having a schedule for your work and your child's work. So if you have things that you need to get done throughout the day, whether it's just in the house or because you are working from home, it's very important to keep some sort of schedule. Now, remember, you're at home and it's kind of up to you. So be flexible. You know, if your baby has the ability to not have to wake up at 7 like they do every morning on a typical school day, let them sleep in a little bit. If they sleep in and they have all their sleepies out, they'll be a more active and engaged student when it's time for them to start learning. Keeping them on the same or similar schedule, sleeping schedule though, is very important. So, right, we don't know when this is going to end, and we don't want to start forming habits of maybe allowing our babies to sleep or to stay up late rather into the night. So trying to keep the same sleeping schedule is very important. You have the freedom to create, use, and modify schedules that are given to you. And for your children, even as small as kindergarten and pre-K, try to create a goal. Even if the goal is simply, I'm going to finish this worksheet today for maybe a kindergarten student. Have them have a goal so that at the end of the day, they realize, that they did, succeed in completing a task for the day. And for the older children, they probably have deadlines still because they might have papers to write and they may be still having exams. Having those deadlines kind of written up for them, maybe using a calendar or a planner, or even writing it on the fridge or writing it on a mirror in their room so that they can see that and kind of stay on top of their deadlines. This is going to teach them, how things kind of work in the adult world a little bit, that, you have to organize yourself now because you're kind of responsible for your work. Consider a digital quarantine. So we're already in a quarantine, and I know we're probably sick of hearing that word, but your children are already going to be on the computer for, a good amount of time working with their teachers and interacting with their classmates. So you want to kind of, especially limit their use of devices until schoolwork is done satisfactorily, whether it's to your satisfaction or what you've agreed to or what the teacher said is satisfactory. So while they're learning, definitely no digital devices unless it's the one that they're using to learn. You can choose to allow them to play with them maybe during breaks, but you do want to consider limiting the amount of time that they're using on these devices, especially because now it's their learning tool. So the screen time isn't really good for their eyes, especially for the younger children. For pre-K3 and pre-K4, we really want to consider the kind of additional screen time we're allowing them to have due to the fact that they're now on the computer a lot longer. I've even heard of daycares using Zoom and Google Hangouts to still interact with their babies because, the babies miss them, they miss the babies. But I did have a parent say that she's concerned because her baby's not even 1 yet, and now she's getting screen time that she didn't intend to give to her. So it goes all the way from infancy to 12th grade that, there's challenges for everybody during this time. So let's just be mindful of how much screen time they get and how much screen time we get, because we're sitting on the computer working and then we're watching Netflix and then our cell phones next to us. So we have to set the example as well. Limit distraction and space for learning. This is all kind of a combined tip. You want to create a clutter-free environment as best as you can. I know children make a mess everywhere, Legos everywhere, but when it's time for them to work, you want them in a clutter-free environment. You don't want to allow for TVs or music playing devices to be on while they're learning. Provide them with headphones if possible, especially if there's a lot of people in the house, if they're siblings or if you have to work. Allow them to use headphones so that they can kind of silence out all the environmental and extra noises in the house and that they can concentrate better. Avoid sitting them near a window with a lot of street or pedestrian traffic. A window might be nice because of that kind of ambient environment and getting the sunlight. That's great. But if you are positioning them in a window that might have a lot of street traffic, cars coming up and down a lot, or people that walk through a lot, it could be very, very distracting for them. So just kind of consider those things when you plan their space for learning. It's very important to create a productive workspace for them, just like you might need one for yourself. Ensure the space is comfortable. If they're the type of child that likes to, lay on their tummy, let them lay on their tummy, right? This is part of that flexibility. They're not in the school setting where it has to be so, particularly structured. Let them lay on their tummy. If they like to sit up in their bed with a pillow, let them sit up in a bed. But if you know they're gonna fall asleep, you know your child better than we do. If you know your baby's gonna fall asleep, don't put them in the bed. But what I'm trying to say is do allow them to be comfortable in the space that they are learning, and avoid putting them in the same space that entertains themselves. And that's very easy to say, if you have a large home, their room might be their learning space. In that case, make sure that it's clutter-free, but best as you can, try to avoid having them do their academic learning in a space where they might also play video games or use the computer. Maintaining breaks is also very important. Children function best if they maintain their routine as close to normal as possible. So your babies are used to, if they're younger, they're used to having snack time. They're used to having nap time in the early childhood grades. They're used to having recess, their lunch. So remember to have those breaks. Of course, you're going to give it to them when you feel like it based on, if they tell you that they're maybe hungrier earlier, you might give them their snack maybe earlier in the day than they might typically get it. But them having that same kind of consistency that, yeah, I'm at home learning, but I still get snack, I still get lunch, recess, that's very important. Setting alarms similar to those at school. You may or may not want to kind of model after, the time of day in which they do math versus science. So if your baby's used to doing math in the morning, then you might want to continue doing math in the morning. It might not be at 8:55 like the teacher does, but it will still happen in the morning time to create that consistency. And like I said, you want to include those kind of movement breaks, recess, snack, nap, or relaxation. Your third, fourth, fifth grader, They might not want to take a nap, but they might want to just chill out for a second. Maybe that's the time to allow them to listen to a little bit of music, or give them 10 to 15 minutes to kind of play on their phone for a little while. Interaction, allow for interaction with friends. I think it's absolutely awesome that we do have all these systems to be able to FaceTime and see each other and talk to each other while they're in their classroom setting and, learning with their teacher. However, children are social. Children like to be around other children. So remember to allow them to interact with their children beyond their learning times and beyond just social media. The older ones like to use Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, but how about scheduling, a Zoom party, right? My job threw us a virtual happy hour. You can schedule that same kind of thing with your children and some of their friends, where they can get on Zoom and just talk and, laugh and have a good time that's outside of just seeing each other, Google Classroom. Some video chats that are available for free are FaceTime if you have an iPhone, WhatsApp, Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is free, and you can communicate with up to, I believe, 10 people at a time for the free account. You can also use Skype, Zoom, and Facebook Messenger as well. Facebook has a feature where you can kind of add people and have a little Facebook party with their, classmates and their friends. But just remember that social interaction, because kind of like a homeschool teacher now, you're responsible for creating those social interactions for them as best as we can, due to the fact that we're also socially distancing. Old school and modern. So yes, it's 2020. We're so adapt to using cell phones, laptops, computers, tablets. But in light of your children now having to be on the computer, quite often, let's not forget those old school, tools that we used to use, like the newspaper. They don't have to read the newspaper, on the computer. When you make your very quick essential grocery run and you have your mask and, all your essentials with you, grab a newspaper as well. Have them, read some current events if they're older. If you're able to, request some of the textbooks from the school so that they still have a physical hard copy of the material that they need to learn. You can also print out articles for them. If you don't have access to be able to get them newspapers, you can go online, create a free account with whichever newspaper, Washington Post, whoever it is, and you can print out these articles and have them physically read it in their hand. There's studies that show that having physical paper and handwriting notes allows for you to retain information a lot better than reading off a screen or typing your notes. So let's just remember some of those old school techniques to break up some of the high use of technology. And once again, because I'm the fun police, that means I'm bringing the fun. I'm not stopping the fun. Schedule time for fun with your children. If you like to bake, bake with your children. If you don't know how to bake, practice baking with your children. You can do science experiments. If you have a yard, you can play in the yard. If you have a stoop, you may just want to sit on the stoop and maybe play Uno or checkers or something like that. Take a stroll around the neighborhood. You can do a 1,000-piece puzzle. They even have 5,000-piece puzzles. Imagine how long that would take you all. So just remember to have fun. Yeah, we don't want them to fall behind. We are afraid that they're gonna lose some of the knowledge that they've been learning all year. But do remember that you are doing your best. The teachers are doing their best to make sure that materials and information and education is still accessible. So give yourselves a pat on the back, literally. This is my virtual pat on the back to you. You all are rocking it out and you're doing the best that you can. Just remember that, and remember to have fun. So here I have a list of internet resources for those of you that may have challenges with maybe having Wi-Fi or internet. Comcast Internet Essentials is a program that will provide internet for, I think, like $9.95 a month. You just have to show them some form of documentation that they request via their website. So Comcast Internet Essentials. AT&T has expanded eligibility for low-cost internet, and new customers get 2 months of free service. So that's an option. Cox Communication. They have first month of free service for new users, for new customers, and then it's $9.95 per month after that. T-Mobile, within the next 60 days, current customers will have unlimited smartphone data, excluding roaming, and an additional 20 gigabytes of mobile hotspot. So if you have a mobile hotspot and you don't have Wi-Fi, you can use your phone as a hotspot to connect the Wi-Fi to whatever device, whether it's a tablet or computer, so that your child has access to whatever app that it is that they may need to use. So if you don't have internet in your house and you have a cell phone with a hotspot, you can use your hotspot as internet. And if you need any supports with that, my email will be at the end. I can kind of walk you through using your hotspot as the internet at home. Sprint, Verizon, and CenturyLink also to have deals currently, considering the pandemic. CenturyLink is doing waived fees for the next 60 days. So those are some internet resources. There's nothing wrong with free, and that will give you access to be able to support your children wholeheartedly. Okay, so here I have some general SPED resources. They're all links that lead to websites. So offline, I'm gonna talk with Charmaine, and maybe I'll just email Ms. Charmaine the link so that she can send it to you all that have participated in the webinar. Each of these links will take you to a website that has even more resources based on the topic. So I'm seeing a chat box. The first link will be for support for children receiving speech services. The second one is literacy supports. The third link is for supports for children with autism. And the last one is supports for the blind and low vision. Let me check in on the chat box to make sure I answer any questions. I also want you to know that there are resources at the coronavirus.dc.gov. Okay, she says that she'll send out the link when she sends the playback link of the webinar to you all. So the next few slides are just some more specific resources. They're really just apps. I was trying my best to try to find some free resources for you and things that you're able to kind of get on your phone that won't cost you anything to be able to support your babies. And I know that our babies with IEPs are probably just honestly probably struggling the most because they're not used to not receiving their services. So hopefully some of these apps will be beneficial to you all. The first set of resources is for, I keep skipping. Okay, apps for children that may have dyslexia. So that sounds literacy. What is dyslexia? Dyslexia Quest, Happy Math, multiplication rhymes, read to me, phonics with phonogram, Dyslexia, and Didi's dictionary, dyslexia dictionary. So these are apps to support children with dyslexia. There are some that focus on phonics. A lot of them focus on word and sound discrimination, along with supports in rhyming and reading. Apps for children that might be having writing difficulties. The Writing Machine, I Write Words, Letter School, Alpha Writer, ABC Pocket Phonics, and Word Magic. So there's apps that support spelling, handwriting, things of that nature for those that might struggle with writing difficulties. These are some apps for those that are visually impaired. Dragon Dictation that will dictate text back to you via Color ID, Light Detector, Tap Tap See, Be My Eyes, Talking Calculator, which is self-explanatory, Say Text, which is self-explanatory, Access a Note, and Visual Brailer. And last but not least, these are supports for those children that may be on the spectrum for autism. The first app is called Sight Words, Sequences for Autism, See, Touch, Learn, Verbal Me, Autism DDT Letters, and Speech with Milo. So those are the specific SPED resources that I was able to find to support you all. At this point, I have disseminated all the information that I have to share for you today. I do hope that it was beneficial. I hope that I at least took a rock off of one shoulder if I didn't take them off both of them. At this point, I'm opening it up for questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions. I think we have about 7 or so minutes left. I hear microphones turning off, so you can go ahead and ask your question. Miss Catherine, did you have a question?
Yes. If my child is not
Miss Catherine, you turned your mic back off. Yes, we can hear you now.
if my child is not doing well, will they let me know in advance, like before he gets his grades and things? Like if I know ahead of time, then I can target in on where he's weak and try to get the help that he needs, whether it be by contacting the teacher or something like that. Will they let us know?
Yes, so just to be clear, I am a consultant. I don't work at Friendship or for Friendship. So that would be a more direct question to maybe ask your child's teacher. Any good teacher will let you know in advance if your child's not doing well. So I would hope that they would do that. And I would just say check in periodically. If you have that concern, just check in periodically to see whether where your child is. That way you can make choices earlier.
Okay.
I can also speak to that too. Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to the teacher. In the webinar that we had on Monday, I'm not sure if you watched it, but I encourage you to go to our Facebook page, Friendship Public Charter Schools, and look at the replay. Our CAO, Ms. Scott Marcus, she spoke to grades because grades was like a common concern for our families about like what's actually being graded. How will I know, if my child is failing? And so she reassured that like right now, like we're just here to support our families. And so we're providing this schedule, but we also understand that there's a shift. So I encourage you to definitely watch the replay, check in with your child's teacher about any concerns that you may have. The homework packet that was sent home right now, that's not being graded. Like right now, we definitely want you to do that with your child and practice that. But we're following updates from the mayor as far as like, when we can be able to return to school. And so right now, those are activities that support what was taught in the classroom, but that's not being like counted as grades right now. So hold on to it, don't throw it away. But just continue to work with your child to do it, and then just check in with any concerns that you may see at home. You can contact me directly. I'll put it again in the chat, and then just reach out to the teacher if there's any specific concerns. And we'll also be sending out communication about how to check the Q3 grades. But just stay in contact with the school right now. This is a shift for all families. So we're just here to support you. And so like, don't feel pressured that you're doing something wrong or your child is doing something wrong.
Thank you.
No problem.
And so where did you say the replay is?
If you go on our Facebook page, Friendship Public Charter School, the replay it's called Monday Live Parent Check-in.
Monday Live. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other comments or questions? Miss Tanya?
No, ma'am.
I think Miss Tanya's pushing a button by accident. It's all right. Miss Cheryl, did you want to share anything? Your microphone's off. Okay, well, if there are no questions, comments, or concerns. I want to say thank you again for joining me here for today's webinar. I hope that I was able to provide you with some sort of sense of relief. And I encourage you, I'm going to check the chat. I encourage you to just keep doing the best that you can, because you are doing the best that you can, and you are the best parents that your children do have.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the information and encouragement.
No
Stay
problem.
encouraged too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Professor Zacchius.
No problem.
Be sure to follow her right here. She has her email address listed, knoxandknuckles@gmail.com. We really appreciate you for sharing this information with our families.
No
I
problem.
hope that it was made easy, and I hope that you do feel reassured that, you know, you don't, I know that we sometimes give ourselves a lot of pressure that we have to be perfect and we have to do things right, or else our child will fail. But we understand that this is a shift for all of us, and we're here to support you. And so I hope that you'll continue to join us for our webinar series.
Thank
We're
you.
doing this every Monday and Wednesday at 4 p.m. So you can join this Zoom link, the link that you have right now, or you can just follow us at Friendship Public Charter Schools on our Facebook page, and we'll be streaming it live as well. So on Monday, we'll be talking about just a family engagement guide. We understand that during this pandemic, sometimes just standing in front of your computer, it can be super boring. So we're going to talk about how to do some family engagement while you're home in quarantine on Monday. And I hope that you will join us. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at wecare@friendshipschools.org, or you can call us at 202-281-1777. If you don't get an immediate answer, be sure to leave a message, and we'll be sure to return any questions that you have. All right, take care, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a good
Bye,
day.
everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.